Well, as they said, there are 32 more games to go this season. We are right at the beginning of the season. And yet, if Liverpool's won and Arsenal had lost and both those games went down into added time, then suddenly we're looking at an 8-point gap. Now, though, we're looking at a 2-point gap. And that is significant at any stage of the season, even six games in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought, when you looked at the stats there, the match stats, Arsenal deserved it. The way they played, the possession, the opportunities. And I thought they showed a lot of mental strength. It showed you the value of the squad. One sub comes on and scores, the other one sets up the goal with a corner with a great delivery. And I think that was the difference with Arsenal today. They got embroiled in a bit of a war at one point where they're trying to win the game too much. And once they got that composure again into their game, it was a really good performance, especially first half, where they were so controlled. And I really enjoyed what I saw today, because they took a lot of stick last week, a lot of it deservedly so, the handbrake, etc. But today they showed a lot of character, because when you're getting bashed up a little bit in the press, it's not easy. So they had to do what they had to do today, and to come from behind at a place which is so difficult, where they've had so many problems over the last few years. I thought it showed you what a great performance and a mature performance it was from Arsenal. And
really interesting substitutions from Mikel Arteta, in that he went super attacking at the end, and it was Mikel Merino who got the equaliser. And again, it's 2 corners for Arsenal, and Newcastle's goal came from a corner, but 6 of Arsenal's 12 goals this season from corners.
And they've got it. It's obviously, you know, they've got the set-piece coach and they work on these things. And for me, that was, you know, another short corner. Comes out here to Eze, just pops it in there. Back to Declan, and great ball in. And for me, sometimes, you know, you criticise defenders. I just think he gets in, the forward gets into, Marina gets into a great position. And this is an absolutely great flick.
You're one of the best headers the ball I've ever seen. How does he do? What does he do so well there?
He's just in front. He gets up early in front of the defender. The defender cannot get to the ball from there. And then once he flicks it, he knows he knows where the goal is. He doesn't need to see it. He flicks it, and that's what he's hoping for it to go in that bottom corner. And it's exactly where it went. It's a great header, absolutely great header. Goal, defender can't do nothing about it, and it's just in the lap of the gods. And as you see Pope there, look where it goes in, off the post, and nothing Pope can do about it.
And what we've seen today is we've seen, obviously, 3 goals from set pieces, but 2 from short corners. And I think now why teams do short corners is it just disrupts the defence, because if you saw from Arsenal's perspective where they concede one, Gyökeres, one of the big guys, goes out for the short one. And again there, instead of there being like maybe, you know, it match-ups 5 players in a really tight space, all of a sudden the short corner makes people come out of position, and that leaves like 2 or 3 yards gap between people. And if you've got good headers of the ball, when you look at it there, look how tight and compact it is. So they're trying to put a net ball into an area. But once that ball then gets played in, you can see the short one. Eze plays it short. You know, Declan knows what he wants to do. Then all of a sudden, 3 players then come out. Then you've got a nice big gap in the middle. So now all of a sudden you've got 2, 3, 4 yards of space, which makes all the difference.
And what that allows is movement. And that's what you see there, lots of movement. In the early corners they were taking, they were just putting them in, they're saying, right, you go and attack it, and it was 1v1. Once you start getting movement, then you're moving defenders out of the way. And once it goes short, people start moving, and that's what caught Newcastle out.
Absolutely. But after that, I think Newcastle would have created their own downfall. Yeah, because the game management now, you've got 1-1. You know that point is in your hands. And we both went, when Nick Pope gets his ball, go down, just buy yourself a few seconds. Instead, he's trying to play a Langer. You're under pressure, you're tired, you're chasing a few shadows right now. The ascendancy is with Arsenal. It's a really bad mistake from Nick Pope, who's been brilliant all game. Then they get caught, the Lascelles puts it out for a corner. Now it's all on, because Arsenal, one of the best players, one of the best at set pieces. Is it a fact? Well, it's irrelevant.
And here, Jay, you know, when he picks the ball up here, what I don't understand is Alanga's he's going up against 3. It's not like he's one-on-one with someone.
Yeah, exactly. And then the delivery, there's a great header by Gabriel.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, Pope gets caught in no man's land. Saliba's standing in front of him. He can't get round him. He goes to try and get it. No chance. And we've seen Arsenal do this time and time again. We've seen this guy, Gabriel, do it time and time, and gets into that position. Goalkeeper's in no man's land, and it's an open goal for him.
And Saliba does so well. Watch Saliba, that he does enough, makes it difficult for him. And I think what Nick Pope's trying to do, because he's trying to rectify the mistake that he'd made earlier, all he has to do is just calm down. And it was obviously a different type of goal, because when Liverpool scored with Ngamoa, they got they were chasing a win. You know, they had 10 men at a time. A point would have been a great result, and they just try. And I think sometimes it's the enthusiasm. You've got to credit them for it to a certain extent. But in that moment, for Nick Pope just to take his time, take the sting out of the game, and just realise a point is still a great result against a really good Arsenal side. But they get, I would call, a little bit greedy.
And they've been ahead for so long. Gabriel was sort of claiming a foul in the opening goal. I think in real life, in real time, it may look like there was a little bit of a more of a nudge there. But Mosquera having given away the corner, Newcastle managed to work it really well.
And the same thing we're talking about. If we look at here, look where Valdebebas is. He goes out, spins round, comes round, and back. Gabriel actually loses him, and then feels a little touch on his back and thinks, I'll go down, I'll get a penalty here. But it's hardly a touch, and bang, great header.
Good header, Les.
Yeah, great header. Great header. Goalkeeper's got no chance.
We've seen some good heads today.
Yeah.
Watkins. No, sorry, not Watkins. For Fulham. Jimenez, yeah. So there was a lot of good headers today, but that was a really good piece of play. And they were. You thought at that point they were hanging on there, so they looked comfortable, and then the sting got taken out of it.
As we spoke about, at the time, Arsenal are in the ascendancy, and you just need to take the sting out of the game. You knew they were coming on top. They were trying everything they could to score a goal. You could have just taken the sting out of it, but Pope got a little bit enthusiastic and tried to get a langer in, and unfortunately causes the corner.
The crowd here at St James's Park certainly thought that Newcastle could have had a penalty. A lot of the Newcastle players thought they could have had a penalty for a Gabriel handball. What did you think? Yeah,
when I saw it, I shouted handball straight away because you see it hit his hand. But then as it comes here, you have to slow it down. It looks like he gets a touch on it, and then it hits the langer, and then it hits his hand. So it's a tough one, but I think they got the decision right in the end.
They have to slow this right down to work out.
You can just see it just squeezes out here. It's like they both get to the ball at the same time, Gabriel and Elanga, and it just almost gets teed up and then pops up into the air and then hits his arm. Where he's really, really lucky, Gabriel, is his arm is in an unnatural position. There's no way you can say that it isn't. And if they would have given that, I don't think there'd have been too many complaints.
By football refereeing decisions, definitions, rather. I think if you fall down, your arms may well flail about a bit.
But that was extremely high, Kelly. I don't think that would be like disproportionate, if that's the right word. But you can see it here. It gets so high. Yeah. You don't need to get it up that high. And so he's extremely lucky. But I think because where he gets away with it is like Les says, it just squeezes between the two of them, doesn't it?
It just gets a touch off him. And if it gets a touch and it deviates... We're talking about that a lot today, deviation. It deviates and it's not a penalty.
Do you know, I was saying earlier on that so many decisions in this game, and even at 0-0, Arsenal feel that they potentially could have had a penalty. And in fact, the penalty was given and then overturned by the referee. And we heard Bukayo Saka saying it took a long time to overturn it. Actually, it took a time because the referee went to review his own decision to make sure that he'd seen everything in the build-up.
I think there's a touch, and what I said to Jamie afterwards, I said, look, if it was the other way round and he was going through as a centre forward, and the goalkeeper laid down and got his fingertips of his gloves to it, and the finger deviated like that, and the player went over him, it never was a penalty. It's because he's gone with his feet or his legs, and it's touched it. You can see it's touched his foot and it's gone in the opposite direction. So for me, the decision was right. Although as a centre forward, I'd be looking for that as a penalty.
Absolutely, I can't wait to see or hear what Mikel Arteta says, because it might just soften now they got 3 points. Because I think if they'd have lost the game, I think it'd be a completely different Mikel Arteta interview. But he might just say, you know what, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. I'm fascinated to hear what he says, because I feel I was doing the game last Saturday, and it might obviously people can say, well, it was different, but the Sanchez on Mbermo, when he goes through, Sanchez gets the slightest of touches, but it knocks it past him and he still brings him down. And that's just my feeling. But I can understand what Les is saying. I was just surprised it got overturned. Was there enough for it to be overturned?
Yes, I take his point, but VAR only intervened to send the on-field referee to go and look at the decision. So it's slightly different in that he's reviewing his own decision rather than having somebody else overturning it. So he went and had a look and that wasn't given. But overall, in terms of what Arsenal did in the game, and we looked at the match stats a little bit earlier, so many shots on target, so much possession. The XG, whatever sort of weight we place on that, was so much higher than than Newcastle. They dominated that game, and regardless of various controversial decisions, you would say they deserved to win it.
Yeah, of course. I think, if you was in Newcastle's changing room and you came in and you got a draw or you won the game, you'd have probably felt like a bit of a bandit, really. Do you know what I mean? You should have had a mask on because, you know what I mean, you didn't do enough to win the game. Defended very well. But, they were under the cosh for most of the game. First half, I thought Arsenal were exceptional. And then for periods in the second half, Newcastle got back into it. But then, towards the end, Arsenal were in the ascendancy again. And as you said, you look at the XG, you look at the shots, and you say, well, you can't come away and not say that, Arsenal didn't deserve to win this.
But before the game, we were talking about whether Mikel Arteta's team selection would sort of give us an idea about what he thought about Newcastle. What do you think it did tell us, that he chose to approach this differently than he did Liverpool or Manchester City?
I think he went after this. He went after this today. He played the attacking players. They were on the front foot, and first half, Pope made 2 or 3 great saves that kept Newcastle in the game. So he went for it, and those players produced. Unfortunately, the goalkeeper was in fine form in the early part of the game.
He'll say, Mikel Arteta, that this was a game in which he could do that he was able to take the handbrake off, which clearly is not an expression he particularly likes. But, he'll say that he can do because he's coming here and he feels that they've got a chance and that maybe he can't do it against Manchester City or Liverpool. Is that right? Or can Arsenal now be a bit more attacking in their approach going forward?
And I think it was purely based on the midfield. It was picking Marino or Eze last week. I think a lot of the fans would like to see Eze start. He went with Marino today, and Marino ends up the important player when he gets you the equaliser. So it goes either way. And I think today, Eze shows that you can trust him in these big games. He showed if you play him in the midfield position where he's one of the 3, he can get on the ball, he can make things happen. Certainly first half, he was the most creative influence on the game. He looked classy when he got it, made things happen. So I don't think there's a problem in that respect. But you can mix it up for certain games. But I felt that going the way they did against Liverpool, going the way they did against Man City both times, when you've got an Eze in there, I think it was right to utilise him and play in that central position. But you know what, he'll be delighted. But saying all of that, and yes, they deserved it. Like Les said, the goalkeeper has a massive influence on that. If he just takes a breath, goes down, buys a few seconds, they don't end up winning the game. And they were, in the end, they were creators of their own downfall.
Half their goals this season, Arsenal, half of their 12 goals have come from corners. Is that a problem? Or do you look at the overall stats from this game and think, do you know what, they're creating loads of chances from open play. They are having those opportunities, and if they rely on corners at times, then so what? It's a valid way to get results in games.
Yeah, they're having opportunities, they're making opportunities in the game, and I think this is why we're talking. When we look at this Arsenal team, you look, if they play on the front foot, you think they're going to create chances, they're going to score goals, but everyone's got set-piece coaches now, and that's for a reason. That's for a reason, because you're going to get free kicks, you're going to get corners, and you might need to do something a bit different to score a goal from one of these set pieces. So if it weren't that important, why would you have set piece coaches?
And that's the thing. It's been really important this year. I think Arne Slot talked about it yesterday and said that it's becoming more and more important. It's never had an impact in the game, but it's becoming increasingly important. And that's borne out by the numbers. 28% of the goals this season have been scored from set pieces, which is an increase
Corners,
of 33%.
Not just that, throw-ins, you see what happens, and you see sides that you never believe will be taking long throw-ins. They're utilising it. If you've got a good long throw, it makes it so difficult to defend against. Brentford obviously get labelled a bit the most, but everyone else is doing it. You only got to look at the leagues this weekend. You looked at all the goals yesterday. Not all, got lots of goals yesterday. A lot of them come from throw-ins, but set pieces, you've got to be good in both boxes. Arsenal weren't so good at their own defence, obviously, when they get caught with a set piece, but they score the 2 vital goals from set pieces. It's the part of the game now. You can't deny it. But I do see a shift in the game. I see a lot more long passes now. I see teams that's going back to front a little bit quicker. If you've got a good centre forward that wants to run in behind with defences squeezing up so much, there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're a long ball team or that just means you're using your football intelligence to beat the other side. I think for so long the game has been playing out from the back. It's become easy to defend against. Now you look at Man City, how they're starting to improve, and not improve, but how they're starting to almost change and evolve to a certain extent by being more direct, by working teams. When you've got somebody that can kick it well, you use it.
As someone who was so effective, as Jamie said, in set pieces, one of the best headers of the ball in the game, from a defensive point of view, how difficult is it to defend? Is that one of the reasons why set pieces are being used so much by teams? Because it's really difficult, if you get them right, to defend against them.
And we saw a couple of them today. Yeah. If you know, when we talked about the short corners coming in, if you get your movement right and you get a run on the defender, it's very, very difficult for him to stop that run and for you to not get ahead on that ball. You know, we looked at probably the last couple of seasons and thought headings going out the game. Not many people were scoring headed goals. You know, and now all of a sudden they've realised that it's such an important part of the game and a massive tool to have in your armour if you can use it and you use it right. And we're seeing so many goals being scored that way now that you know. And
there's also, Les, you have to now be able to take on information, because you don't just have one or two set pieces. You have maybe 6 or 7 when you see a certain setup. So you have a good level of intelligence. You have the corner taker has to know what he's doing. Set pieces now, the players will have pads of paper and they're making sure while they're doing it on the pitch they know what set piece they're going to do. That's the level of detail. American football's been miles ahead in that respect for many years, and now certainly football's following it.
I mean, years ago you would go, right, OK, we're going to do 1 3 times, and then you're going to go into 2 or 3 and whatever that may be, whatever your movement, and then all of a sudden you change it.
And then you say, Gaffer, it's a bit cold, can we have a 5-a-side?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a look then at how Arsenal have been getting on. We can see the numbers here in terms of the games that they've already played, the games that are yet to come. You could argue that they've had a tricky start to the season. The most difficult games would be teams that they would be expecting to be playing and challenging for the title alongside them in Liverpool and Manchester City, but they've beaten Manchester United, they've beaten Leeds and beaten them well, they've beaten Nottingham Forest, now they've beaten Newcastle, who'd won the last 4 games against them at St James's Park. They've got West Ham, Fulham, Crystal Palace, who we've seen are playing incredibly well here, incredibly well, particularly this season, Burnley, Sunderland, and then the North London derby. Does this look like a run of fixtures in which Arsenal can put a run of results together? Yeah,
you look at it, I said at the start, I don't see a weakness in this team. And I really don't. And what they're bringing off from the bench is going to be a threat to any team. And so when you look at the fixtures to come and what they've played already, and they've had 1 loss in that, I think this will give them a load of confidence. Coming back in the way they did today will give them a load of confidence in the next games to come. I think they could put a real run of results together.
I think so. I think, and the fact that they've got set-piece goals. They've got too much quality in that team to not score goals from open play. You look at players like Eze. I will also say Liverpool haven't had the easiest of starts as well. They've played Arsenal. They've obviously played Bournemouth at home, which is a tough game. Crystal Palace are the form team in the Premier League. They've played a derby against Everton, so it hasn't really been easy for them. So I think right now we're all guessing what can happen. There's going to be a lot of twists and turns. I think what it's shown today is that Arsenal are right in the mix, and anyone's been doubting them is completely wrong.
And he wasn't happy with the way that the Newcastle performed overall. Felt maybe they weren't at their best, particularly physically, and that's what Eddie Howe demands from his teams, is real physical fitness and sharpness. Yeah,
I think it's such a fair assessment, because he's called it pretty much as we've said it. It was tough, because when you think about Newcastle's midfield, we were speaking and waxing lyrical about it before the game, and how much energy that they expend and how they get after you and make it difficult. I felt it was too easy certainly that first 30 minutes for Arsenal to play through them. They always found the spare man, whereas it's always so difficult normally. Against Liverpool early in the season, Liverpool never had that luxury. But today they just couldn't. They just felt like they were half a yard off. And sometimes it's difficult to understand why. Maybe in training, maybe you sense it. Things aren't quite right. Maybe a couple of players have missed a few minutes here and there, and everyone's trying to catch up. Voldemar scored his goal, so you can't really look at that. Yes, Alexander Isak is a blow, he's a miss, but, the forward scored a goal for you today. But it just felt everyone else just wasn't quite at the level. I thought Thiaw was excellent at centre-back. I thought he had a really good game. But we said that, would you agree with that, Les? They just weren't quite as fresh as normal.
Yeah, I mean, what happens is normally what they had last year was someone that could run in behind. And when that person ran in behind, they were able to get up the pitch, and then they were able to press people. Yeah. I felt Arsenal were able to work in Newcastle's half, and they didn't really have an outball. So every time it came, it just came back in, and Arsenal recycled it. We watched in the second half, and for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the second half, they got at Arsenal, never allowed Arsenal to play. And I said to you, that's what Newcastle normally do. So I understand what Eddie's saying. They didn't seem like the Newcastle we're used to seeing, and like I said, it takes a bit of time to get back in with some new personnel to where you want to be. And as far as Livraminto's concerned, we hope he's okay. But stuff to work on for them.
But on the plus side for Newcastle, they do have Nick Voltemada up and scoring and involvement and scoring what could potentially have been a really important goal for a long period of that game.
Yeah, you know, you've got to look at his strengths and what he brings to the side, and they bought him for a reason. You know, as I said, you know, right at the start of the programme, they brought Wissa, who was unfortunately injured at the moment. He'll give them that running in behind, and I think once he's fit and Valdemar will link up with him really well. And that's when you can really look at Newcastle and see what they're trying to do. At the moment, they're just trying to stick a few people in positions that perhaps don't suit them at the moment.
Well, Nick Voltemada then, with the opening goal in the game, with Newcastle's goal of the game, he put his hands on Gabriel Saliba's back, Gabriel's back, who then went down, claiming that it was a foul. And then there was this afterwards. And Nick Voltemada spoke to Pat about it. He doesn't want to make too much of a big deal of it, but as he said, he didn't like it. What do you think?
The question I'd asked, if he had gone down, he said, I don't want to go down. But had he gone down, they'd have reviewed it. And if they would have reviewed it, I want to know what the outcome would have been.
What do you think the outcome would have been?
Well, he's smashed him straight in his face. Look.
It's a liberty, isn't it? That's whatever way you look at it. He's really lucky.
And if he goes down holding his face, they review it.
This is a better angle here,
look. There you go. And I think, you know, any blow to the face is a sending off. So
Absolutely.
I'm saying, if he falls on the ground and then they go, because they'll have to go to VAR if he goes down on the ground. And I like what he said. I don't want to go down for things like that. But then all of a sudden, Gabriel stays on the pitch.
It sort of got lost in the sort of aftermath of the goal and in, you know, subsequent moments in the game. But that is potentially a really significant moment.
And the thing is, as well, you've got to take into account that Gabriel, right now, after that, his head is in a bit of is in a tumble dryer. He's made the mistake for the goal. He's fuming, and he's obviously had a bit of a problem with him. So he's leaving a bit on him. You can't do that. But this is a consequence of this silly kickoff that everyone does now. Yeah. It does my head in. You pass it back to the goalkeeper. It's like American football. He's having to run past three players. Look, they're all smashing him. Why don't you just pass it back and start playing? Why? And then one team does it, and how do they all do it? It's ridiculous. But people are going to get. I see it at grassroots. I see it playing now. That should be a foul. And if it's not, it's not really that. It could be a sending off. It's ridiculous. But everyone's copying each other. They're all doing the same things, and it just causes a massive melee every single time. I don't get it. Like you see Zubimendi trying to do it, then he's running past him. It was like Bulldogs when you was that game Bulldog when you were a kid. That's what everyone's doing. Everyone just copies everyone. At least make up your own thing. You know what I mean? Have your own ideas.
And then Gabriel gets the winner. Is that going to sting?
I'm sure it will. I think, you know, Eddie said he's not seen any of the incidents. So when he goes back in and he sees that, you know, Valdemar will, you know, he'll be disappointed that he didn't go down because, as you said, Gabriel scores the winner. And had he gone down, and I don't like seeing players do it. I don't like seeing players feign injury.
But Les, we see players go down for a lot less than that.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm saying to you. I don't like seeing it, but then that's a genuine someone hitting you in the face.
Kelly, we're not going off air yet. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday from everybody, Kelly.
Thank you, Jamie.
I didn't want to embarrass you, but I thought, you know, so you come here on your
did
birthday,
anyway, yeah.
You know?
Well, wait till everybody's switched off because it's the end of the show. Then we'll say happy birthday. Yeah, 21 if anyone's asking. Arsenal then taking all 3 points against Newcastle. Bye-bye.